Hey Rick, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Justine. How are you?
Good, good. So just wanted to catch up, what's going on in your world and in the world of your students? I know it's crazy out there, but what's happening in your world specifically right now?
It has been a crazy past, I guess, 2 months. This is something no one anticipated. So we suddenly had to move into this world of what we called virtual learning. And for me, I was fortunate. I have a resource, an online resource that really allowed me to adapt pretty well and allowed the students to adapt pretty well because the readings can be online. A lot of the pre-assessments, a lot of the post-assessments, a lot of the activities could all be done online. So fortunately, I didn't have to adapt anything too crazy. It took away from the face-to-face experience, which is something I love so much, but at least we were able to have somewhat of an experience online. I think for the students, it was interesting for them too, because here they were, you're in school, you've got your new routine, you don't have family or friends or whatever that old support system is around to tell you what to do or to make sure you're doing things. And suddenly they were back home or they were somewhere else. And so they had to get into this new system. And so for me, and I think for us, it was just a matter of communication and how we continue, for me in my classes especially, tell that story of marketing and
Hmm.
how you convey that in a way that is now virtual, that isn't face to face, where you can't have the same kind of discussions. But we got through it pretty well. So a lot of learning there of what
Yeah.
we did well, was stuff we could do a lot better and really adapt to, because we don't know what the future holds necessarily. So
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about your students. What sort of challenges are they up against right now as all of this has been happening?
yeah, they're up against all these challenges where suddenly where they just would go to class and they might have to read something prior, now they really have to engage themselves. And so it's a matter of their thinking and their thought process. And this semester I had 770 students, I think. So it was making sure that I could communicate so that they could adapt appropriately, because they come from all levels. I had a couple of seniors, but then I also had a lot of freshmen. And so it's a matter of just what they can do to make sure that they are getting the material, understanding the material, and allowing it to build a good foundation for them for their future classes.
Hmm.
Um,
You've been teaching for how many years have you been teaching now?
15,
Oh
15
my
years.
gosh.
Yeah.
Where does that passion and commitment for teaching, especially as it relates to marketing, come from? Because I know you've also,
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know who are listening, Rick is also a very prolific volunteer with the American Marketing Association as well. So super interested in your passion and commitment for teaching and also just, marketing in general.
Yeah, so a good question. In general, my passion for doing what I do comes from the industry itself. So I think marketing is just this really challenging and opportunistic industry where we get to be a part of the bigger conversation of business. I mean, think about how true that is right now, where our economy's been turned upside down, business has been turned upside down, and so really I actually see this as something very exhilarating to me, and that's something that fuels a lot of my passion for marketing, is the fact that we're in this constantly changing, just very dynamic world within the business of business itself. When it comes to the students, I get inspired by them. And I know that sounds maybe a little cliche, but I just love the fact that you get to interact with these students who want to grow in their knowledge, who want to be successful in business. And that fuels me. That gets me excited when I go into class. When we end up having one of those discussions where you just walk out of class with this big smile on your face, it's because, wow, the students get it and want to be a part of this conversation. And I just
Hmm.
think that's awesome. That's what drives me and gets me up in the morning.
That's awesome. As you're thinking about like both your students and just the marketing industry in general, what skills do you feel like people should be building, especially kind of thinking about just how rapidly things are changing and just your experience in the past as the industry has evolved.
Yeah, you think of all the skills. Now, obviously, every aspect of business and marketing also, you need certain levels of technical skills. You need to know what your resources are. You need to understand certain areas of expertise so that you can go in. And whether that is a process for doing market research or new product development, or
Hmm.
if it is some of the tools that you need to do in order to analyze data, you certainly have to have that. But I think now more than ever, I think students need that, and marketers who are already in their careers really need just a lot of skills such as these softer skills of adaptability. Can you adapt to new situations? Because we've all been thrown into new situations right now. So can you adapt to that? Certainly how you can understand technology. I mean, 6 months ago, we weren't on all of these different platforms for virtual meetings, and now we are. So how do we understand how we can use technology and how you can be very flexible with that? Because some people adapt right away to it and they're very flexible no matter what kind of system it is, and other people take longer. So the more you can learn there. I think how we work in teams is changing because we're no longer, or haven't been for the past little while, face to face, and that's not going to come back in the same way anytime soon.
Hmm.
So you think about teamwork, adaptability, flexibility, how you communicate in general, I think is
Hmm.
huge, because suddenly now you're not necessarily seeing someone face to face, and if you are, it's through a camera on your laptop. But then also how you write something that is more meaningful. I think right now our written communication skills can really be honed so that we're a lot more effective there. So those, in addition to those harder skills, the technical skills, I think really important nowadays.
Yeah, it's interesting because I kind of feel like a lot of it boils down to really strong critical thinking
Oh yeah.
and asking smart questions, like really trying, even when it comes down to technology, being proactive and asking proactive, smart questions as it relates to all of that and thinking about the bigger picture, which I think a lot of that really just kind of comes from practice. And even in every situation that you're in, really trying to think as critically and strategically as possible about it, and then letting your questions stem from that.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we're really in this business of solving problems. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what you do in marketing. It's what you do in every other area of business. It's what you do in life. Is you have to think about what a problem is, and then you have to think creatively in terms of strategy and what you're doing and timing and budgets and everything in terms of how you end up solving those problems. Yep.
Yeah. As you think about, I mean, your own learning journey, because I know obviously I think especially marketers, like you never stop learning. Things are always changing. What brands and what leaders have you been looking to as you've been on your own learning journey, both in the past couple of months, but just in general as well?
Yeah, yeah, where we have the opportunity to learn from so many groups of people. And it's not just if you're a marketer, you learn from marketers, or if you're in another area of business, you learn from that area of business alone. And so one thing I try to do is, well, first of all, I've been lucky to be on a couple of boards. And when you're on a board of directors or board of advisors for a company or an organization, you get to work with some really smart people, so they can influence you and inspire you to understand things in a different way. I think about business leaders such as Howard Schultz and what he's done. I think about people, entrepreneurs like someone like Walt Disney and what he was able to accomplish, and how he thought about a family experience, and then how he translated that into a theme park in addition to the movies and everything else that he did. You think about people like Simon Sinek and what he's able to do, and then I try to think outside of that a little bit. I've been doing some things on Masterclass, and so I've been listening to a couple of people, a couple of designers. I've been watching Massimo Bottura, who is this just awesome chef, and how he talks about creativity and how
Hmm.
he talks about trying something different and how that empowers you. You think about architects like Frank Gehry or Michael Graves, and just kind of the way they think through something. It's for them, it's not just a building. Yes, someone has asked them to design a building, but it's not just that. They're trying to think about space and experience. And those types of things really just start to inspire me in terms of how I think about, what is the conversation when it comes to a marketing solution, and how do we then think critically about that?
Yeah. No. What are you reading and listening to right now? What kind of right now? What are you in the middle of?
So I've been doing some of the master classes. I just finished one with Kelly Wersteld, I think is her name. If I get that wrong, my apologies to her. But she's an interior designer, and she talks about the process there. Again, listening to some Massimo Bottura things, and some Bob Iger has some things on master class. So I'm doing that, and I'm also trying to read some things. I've been trying to study some French. Not always so successfully, but I've been trying to do that. But I also get into the French culture. And so there's this book I'm reading right now. It's called 65 Million Frenchmen Cannot Be Wrong. And the subtitle of that is Why We Love France, But Not the French. And it talks about really, to generalize, Americans' perceptions of the French, what we think of them. Oh, they're rude, they're snobbish, just all of these things. But it's not. It helps you understand really their culture and their life. And so it makes you think in a different way about how people are and how they experience things. The way we might experience, going to a restaurant and then asking for the check and paying and leaving is different in France. And so you just think about how people live their lives. And again, it's kind of inspiring, and it makes me think differently about different types of solutions that are out there. So that's something I'm reading, a couple of things that I'm watching right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's just more important than ever right now to be seeking inspiration from different places, because I mean, just talking about specifically like the restaurant experience, I mean, that is a whole different experience now than it ever was. I mean, I feel like, when are we ever going to pay the normal way ever again? It's all going to be contactless. So I think if anything, like, that's the type of stuff we should be reading and putting ourselves into, because it's going to allow you to think a lot more expansively about more normal, situations.
I hope so. I certainly hope so. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that are changing right now, and we don't know what they're changing to. And so I think wherever you can get your inspiration to think about that, I just think it's a really good thing to do and to have.
Yeah. So my last question for you is, a lot of marketers, they're kind of either in a place where they've been furloughed, or maybe they're even just getting started. And do you have any advice for marketers who are kind of just getting started, or maybe restarting in this super uncertain environment?
Yeah, it's such an uncertain environment. It's so difficult and so challenging. And so, I went through a couple of those stages where either by my choice or someone else's choice, I needed to find something new. And so you think, okay, a couple of things. And one is, if you have to take a more entry level position, chances are you should probably do it, because what it's going to do is it's going to bring you in on a level where you can gain a nice breadth of experience of what a business is doing. It might not be that VP or director position that you're hoping for or thinking that you might want, but you're able to do that. And I had a couple of chances where I was able to do that. And the next thing is just kind of say yes and be open to all of those opportunities. I would not have gotten into marketing had I not said yes to a couple of opportunities that were out there. It just kind of got me where I wanted to be. I don't think I would have been volunteering on the level that I did if I didn't say yes just to some things. If you feel like it fits your skill set, and if you feel like you can do that, I think just, going in, accepting something that might not be what you want, knowing that as business grows and as your knowledge of that business grows and your time with that business continues, you're going to be able to then say yes to even more opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time and sharing all of your advice and knowledge with us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, it was no problem. It was actually a pleasure. I enjoyed doing it. So thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Thanks.